So here's a sneak peek at the layout that you'll be completing in this tutorial. So I will show you the papers I've used and then we get on with making our cards. Good afternoon everybody, I'm Deb from Project Life Deb's Way. I've got a terrific layout for you using the leftover papers as promised from the Golden Harmony collection. So I've only used the papers that were left over. So if you haven't done that layout, if you buy the 22 paper pack, you will be able to make the video from 2 months ago as well. So I've done something really different. I have done a very textured layout this time and no flowers. I challenged myself, and I've also done a lot that's on the slant, which if you have seen my layouts, normally they're very squared and structured. So I have really gone outside the box this time and my comfort zone to do this. So I do hope you like the layout. So I'll give you a sneak look at what it actually turned out like. So I will do all your cards from start to finish so you can work your way through to make this layout, and the papers are very readily available still. I'll give you a sneak peek just before you do the video so you can have a good look at what you're making. And for those that don't belong to the Project Life Deb's Way group, this Facebook group has the cutting video for all of your papers. So you can actually buy your papers, cut all your papers ready to go, and then come back and do your tutorial, and it's all set and ready for you. I also, if I use any extras, I'll put a copy of what extras I've used so you actually have access to those images. So with no further ado, let's get on with making our cards, and don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, because then you will actually get notifications when you get new videos. So let's get on with the fun. Hi everyone. Just a quick video on the papers that we're going to use for this month. Remember 2 months ago, I think it was, we used the Stamperia Golden Harmony, the maxi pad with 22 single sheets, and I said to hang on to it because I would actually do another layout using this. I'm going to show you some of the pages that are left so you can get your supplies file. So if you remember, we had a few of these left over. We had 4 frames. We also had one of the tag sheets. We had the bird cage. We also had some of these left over where we cut some of the ephemera out of. We also had cut into this one with tabs and things, and then we had some of this left over, and we also had some of the frames which we'd actually used but still had some of the frames. But these here are the sheets that were left. So I'm just running through here so you can actually see that is the back page. We also had another ephemera sheet, and also these ones here. So they are all the papers that we had left over. So there is still plenty of papers to work our layout with. Now I've also thought this time to add a bit of, because I'm making a very grungy layout, which is very unusual for me, so I'm going really out of the box this time. So I've just got some Hessian, and I also normal brown distress ink quite heavily because I want it really grungy. Now for my cardstock, we'll go, and I have used, this is called Battle Fatigue from Couture Creations, but it is just a true olive green. Very similar to the Australian gumleaf green. Now, with the cardstock, I have used an ivory colour, and believe it or not, they are both the same. Supposed to be the same colour, but as you can see, there is a slight difference. Obviously, one has been in the light a bit, but it is a true, what I class, it's not the yellow creamy ivory. It's quite I think you might even call it like winter white, because here's your white. You can actually sort of see there isn't that much difference. It's just more on the cream toning, and I've got a couple of sheets of that to do like my photo mats and things like that. Now, included in the files up the top of the Facebook group, I have I'll turn that sideways so you can really get a good look. I have actually done a printout sheet with lots of little tags and numbers, and here is a template of a love heart. So if you cut that out, that's the type of love heart that I want cut for what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do a couple of new type of things with my layout. So I'm having a really good little play to make things really differently. And I'm sure everybody's got some of this stuff in their stash. They've got old netting that you can pull apart and everything else. I might use a little bit of this as well. I don't know yet, but we'll see when we have finished. Before we start making the cards, I thought, because this is so different to what I've been making normally, with this challenge, because with this challenge I decided that I have to have a grungy look. I also wanted my ephemera and that not to be square, and to be a little bit more raised. To give you an idea, I've got one card that I've finished here, so I've got sort of distressed edges, and I'm using a little bit of Hessian and some of the gauze as well, just to give a different look with lots of little tags and things like that. So I thought before we start I'd explain what I've actually done with the Hessian and the edges and things, so that you know each and every card is, you know what I'm actually doing. So I've got some examples here, which will be for card number 2. I've got like a ticket, and I've grunged it and rolled it, and I've also rolled the edges. So I will just show you how I actually do this on a card. So I'm going to get some cardstock here. I'll just get some old cardstock that I've got. So I'll cut it so we'll say that this is like a 3x4 card. So I have got one of the old-fashioned Tim Holtz distressors. There are other companies that do these distressors. I can't lay my hands on one exactly, but they are around, and it's where they have like a slit and they have a little blade inside the distressor, so that you can actually put your piece of paper in the distressor like that, and then by dragging it down it will sort of cut the paper. So then you sort of make little hollows, and it gives you a nice distressed edge. And if you keep chiseling at it, you'll get chunks taken out, and there's sort of thing. But if you don't have one of these tools, you can use, I have seen these, the little blades that come out. You can actually use this. It works quite well. So you just sort of chisel away at it, and it will give you a similar effect. Or another one which everybody has is a pair of scissors. So what you do there is you go away from you and slant at a roughly about a 45-degree angle, and that will give you a similar ripped edge, depending on which sort of whether you want the rough end. So if you really want it rough, you actually do it on the opposite side to what you want. So you just will have to sort of have a bit of a practice, and you'll get that lovely torn, rough, grungy edge. Now I'll just get rid of all my paper bits. So that's how I've done my ticket there, and then I've really done with my brown ink. I sort of come inwards with those, and then I just do the edge like that. And because I want it grungy, I've done it quite dark. So that's sort of how I've done some of my corners and things in. Then I have gone and got my, what I call a pokey tool. A wooden skewer would work for this as well. So what I have done is I've just got the corners and rolled them over so they just tuck underneath the pokey tool. Take your pokey tool out, and then what I do is I squash it so it makes it a little bit flat, and will stay that way. And then of course, once again, just very gently lift it up and give it a bit of an ink round so that your white is at the top and all the edges are quite dark, and that will give you your nice rolled look. So all the pages I've done, that's how I've done those two techniques. The other one, I had this cardboard just underneath, and as you can see, it doesn't look right. So I've done exactly the same. If you have a look at it now, it looks much better being grunged. Now how I did that, I've just got some white paint, a paintbrush, and I've gone crossways, and I've got some extra paint, and I've sort of like that. And as you can see, it does make a difference. So if you go crossways, you get it on the grain, and then that way you'll get a nice, and then I'll put some on the edges. And once again, to give it authentic, I have virtually torn the cardboard to get that edge, and then I've just gone with my paintbrush like that, and that gives you a nice torn, uneven edge. So that's how I have done the techniques that I'll be using with this, so that will follow through. Now the other thing is, if you put this corrugated card onto your card, when you go to put your photo mat, it's going to lay uneven. So I've just got a piece of cardboard which will go underneath the card like that, so that when you stick your photo mat on, it will actually lay flat, and then your ephemera can go on. So there's just some little techniques, and we'll get on with making our cards. Okay, so this is our first card. So using all the techniques that I've just showed you, I've got my piece of brown card here, and it is 5.5 by 1.5, and this is going to go down the bottom here like that, just flat. But as you can tell, I have ruffled the bottom, done a tear here, and at the top I've really ruffled it because I'm going to do a split. So what I tend to do is when I do, particularly if it has white on the back, I tend to put a little bit of ink just on the tear on the back. So then I just tear my cardstock, and then what you can do is just roll it. That way you've got your edges are all done, and you get a beautiful tear like that, all grunged, ready to go. Now I'm going to pop a little bit of glue under those just to keep them down and out of the way, or just give them a few seconds to attach. And I'm going to roll my corners, and once again, where you're rolling your corners, just give them a bit of the underneath. Excuse my card, I've got ink everywhere. So I just get my little pokey tool. As I said, a toothpick will work. Just roll my card around. Tool. Now with this one, you need to pop your little square so that your corner fits in, and I've torn 2 edges, just torn the cardboard. Now I've just done a little tear to make that all the more gungy, and I'm going to just stick a little bit of glue in that corner just to support it. And the same goes for that side. But you can see how much easier it is if you've put a little bit of the brown on each corner. So now we know that that is all going to fit. So we can attach our cards down. Now, as I promised, this is really going to be a very grunge style, which would suit travel, or it would absolutely suit a masculine layout. So we pop our card down onto the base card, and my glue hasn't set there. Just hold those down for a few seconds while they attach themselves. Okay, so now we can put our next layer down. Now just stick the bottom of this, not the top, because we are going to be putting some things underneath. Okay, now I have cut these frames from some of the leftover paper from before, and here it is here on that card. I have also cut the tag here as well. And from the leftovers on this sheet, I cut live every moment. Most of the other stuff came from your cut sheet, except for these two came from this sheet here, just there. I cut those two from your leftover papers. Now, from your cut apart sheet, this one here, I cut the top off. And this little one, I just wanted some little numbers, so I've cut them off of the bottom off of that one there. Okay, now to deal with this little frame, I have cut just enough green just to give a little border around, so that can be attached. And because this is going sort of in the middle, you can see that that card is not attaching. So what I'm going to do there is just pop a little bit of the foam tape underneath to give it that support that it requires. So that one is ready to go down. Now I've got my gauze again. So what we just need to do, I just need this over in the corner. Stick that down. Now I can see I've made a mistake here, so before that all sticks down, just prise that off, and I've got a piece of green where I put a bit of gauze. Now I'm going to edge the top there. I want that to go in like that, so you can see a little bit of the gauze where that tear is. Now I'm going to put that down with some glue. Sorry, I should have put that in before we put our backing card down. Just pop that in, and that just, what that will do is when you pop this on, it just gives the, follows through with the colour. Now this one here goes on the side here, so we are just going to glue that down with a bit of glue and slide that in. Now I've got that number 39, which we'll just glue on. Just slant it slightly. And then you've got your little numbers that you cut off the other one. Okay, Now if your card's curling up a bit, just give it a bit of a push down and it will lay flat. Now we have got a small tag here, and our clock. Now our clock needs to go underneath, so we're just going to chop a bit of that off and we'll glue him down. So just poke that under slightly. Then you can put this little tag over the top, and if it won't go underneath, just cut it a bit until you get it. And I'm going to slant that like that. Okay, so once that's done, we can actually pop this card. Now, this particular little one, we need to attach underneath that card, underneath the green. And then I'm going to pop a little tiny bit of foam tape to give it so it doesn't bend underneath like that. So I've got my foam tape here and here. So we'll turn that round, and that now we'll just pop it on top. Don't actually attach it, because we've got a couple of things to put underneath. So we've got our envelope, which needs to be popped underneath like so. So we'll just get our tape and attach that. We also have our hessian. Now this little one is going to go just there. So we can actually tape that in. And bring that down and across and attach. We are going to put our tape on our hessian. And pop that underneath. And just drop that below just to give you another layer. Now you can actually stick that frame down. Now we've got one of those circles, which I've put on a bit of foam tape. So here we are going to put live every moment. Now we need, because we've got a circle here and there's no bow, we are just in our little bit of string that we have used. Make ourselves a little bow. We're just going to put that on our tag. Get that attached. So there we have card number 1 complete. Now we're on to card number 2, and I've got my 6x4 base card. Let's get that out of the way. Sorry about the mess here because I've just re-inked my inker. Now I've cut a 6x4 piece of paper from nearly the full card that you've got out of this paper, and that measures 5 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that is going to go onto that base card. Now I've rolled the 2 edges at the top, and I've also done my distressing tool on the 2 sides like that for roughly about 1 inch. So we're going to put that onto our card. Just in the center like that, and just roll your little edges over and get them nice and working. Now I've got a 3x4 photo mat, which as I am going to put that little bit of cardboard at one side and a tape on the other side like that. Now this is that piece of cardboard, and that is going to measure 2.5 by 3 1/2. So that needs to be painted, and then what I did is I tore the top corner off just so that it sits underneath that fold like that. Now I'm going to stick that down, and I might actually put an extra piece of tape to make sure that it sits nice and flat. And attach that down. We can now put our photo mat on. And as you can see, can't see whether you can see, but you can, that card now sits nice and flat. So the ticket that came from the sheet, if you don't belong to the Facebook group, just go into your stash and find some older tickets that you can use. That, or you do have, if you have a look in here, you'll have some of these that you could actually cut this one down and use that if you needed to. Now I'm just going to move this across slightly. So that roughly is just a smidge over 1/4 inch, because you need to give yourself room for this ticket. Now with this ticket, I did actually cut roughly 1/8 of an inch off the side so that it sort of sat in the middle there. Now if you wanted to slant this, let's have a look and see how it looks. We're going to put this down the bottom. I think that actually looks better. Straight, rather than off center. So sometimes, even though I say put things underneath, otherwise the only other way you could do that is to pop that underneath, and I really am under, and it sort of means that that's slanted and then that's slanted. So I think the way to go is to have this particular one straight, and maybe we'll, to get the off-centered, we'll lift it up a bit. Get our corner to roll. That's it. So let's attach our ephemera now that we're happy with our placement. So once again, because it's corrugated card, I have put 3 pieces of tape to get that going. And then roll that corner down and get that attached. Now I might just pop a little bit of glue in the bottom there and get those corners to really roll over. Just hold them down. Okay, so then we have our ticket. So we'll take before we stick that right down, we'll stick the other one underneath. And I want that poking just underneath. So there we have card number 2 complete. Now these 2 cards are really, really easy. All it has is your 6x4 in your olive green, and then I've trimmed these down to, it depends on how you want it. This one was 5 3/4, and this one was 5 7/8. So it depends on what border. I prefer the larger border, so I am going to change my card and cut that to, now it's going to stick to my board. I'm going to take the extra off, so that becomes 5 3/4 by 4 3/4, so they match up. get that sticking everywhere. And pop them on. I prefer the little bit more of a green border around. So there's card 3 and number 6, and of course number 3 will be that angle, so that way you can have a landscape photograph 6x4 and a portrait as well. So there's those 2 cards complete. Okay, so now we're on to card number 4. So I have cut this sheet out of this sheet here, and then I've trimmed it up to 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. I've got a base card 6x4 in the ivory, and I've got a 3x4 photo mat. Now the green is, I'm just looking at my measurements. The green, I have cut a 3x4 square, and I've trimmed it to 2 3/4 by 3 1/2. And this piece here of the hessian is 1 inch by 4 inches, and I've frayed the edges, and I've put my tape downwards, and down the bottom I've put 2 pieces to put my, I'm not sure whether it's gauze or it's classed as a muslin, I'm not sure, but as I said, so there we have there, and then this just gets thrown on there, higgledy-piggledy, like that. I think we might just unfold that a bit. And if you find you've got more bits, you can move it around to sort of cover, just like that. And I've also got the dream I cut from this sheet here with boots and things. I just cut that dream out. This is a leftover sheet. And the love heart, the green, I used one of those tags like that, and I just drew it freehand, the same shape as the template was, and then I cut this particular one from the leftover sheet, because we've already used this bit here. From the bottom that's got the book, I just once again drew the love heart, and I've done my normal trick. I have curled the edges up here and here, and then I've rolled it over the paintbrush to get that curve, and I've put the 2mm double-sided tape on that. I've cut a small heart. Now this little one here, I cut the bottom numbers off to just have a number there, and that will be sitting like that. So we need to do our rough edging, so we will do it on this side. It's just so that it makes it consistent with all of our other, and then I think I'll do some down the bottom here. We'll make that a nice big fat juicy one. And then I'm going to do a little tiny bit up the top here. Put my brown on the left hand corner and get my pokey tool and roll my corner just so that it's consistent through the whole layout. Okay, once we've done that, we can attach, and I haven't grunged the edges of this yet, so I will go ahead and do that. And I think I might just do a little bit here and a little bit more at the top. You'll know when you put this down whether you've got enough. That's perfect. So we'll lay that down onto our base. Then this card I've used to cover up the luggage, so that can be laid down straight away to build our layers on. Okay, a 3x4 can go down as well, but before we do that, just place it down the bottom. So you've got that tiny little gap there, and this needs to be popped underneath. Like that. And then you've got that little snippet tag. Just get that nice and slanted. Like that. Now we can put our 3x4 photo mat in. Now all the rest is going to go down here. So we have our lovely piece of hessian that goes from the top to the bottom. There we have it there. So at the top, we've got the clock to keep the clock flowing through. So pop that up the top. I've got the love heart, which I'm going to do sideways. So you get your clock straight. This one will sit here. I've got the small little one like this. And then I've got my dream, which is on foam tape, and this one's on foam tape as well. And then as soon as you're happy with your placement, just pop them off and start building your layers. So we'll put the clock down first. And take that up to the top so you don't actually see that hessian. If you want, you can take some of those strands off and get that. So that's the only thing that's really straight with this. So now we need our other love heart, which we're going to tilt to one side. Pop your dream world without actually putting it on, because that will make a difference to how this next love heart goes on. And as soon as you're happy with that, you can take your tape off and pop your bit of glue at the bottom and around those wings at the side. And just hold that down. Pop your dream word on top. And then of course this one has foam tape as well. Just pop that where you think you would like it. And then go and get your bead, your little black beads. Just having a look to see where to put these. I think I might put it on that heart. And I have another little, I'll just put one. Or maybe two. I think we might go for two because we put two on the other. Come you little thing. And then just push them to where you need them. Now I'm just thinking, I'm going to make that slightly smaller. There we go. We're going to pop that little bow in the center there. And then we'll snip that off a little bit more. And there we have your card number 4 complete, and that actually will go on to our small 3x4 cards to go in your pockets. So we're on to card number 5A. There's a few moving parts with this card. I've cut my 3x4 card from the wood grain paper, making sure that the grain goes downwards. It doesn't really matter so long as you always keep the grain going the same way. From my green cardstock, I cut 3 1/8 by 2 3/4, and I've put some tape on the back. Now this card came from this sheet of paper here up in the top hand corner, and it is 2 1/2 by 3. Now dauber, I want to make it really quite dark in the corners and etc. for that. Now I've got bits of paper all over my workspace. Now what you need to do now is pop this piece of paper onto that green, and you should just have a small 1/8 of an inch border all around. Now my challenge with this particular card is to actually get it out of square, and you know how I love my squares. So what we are going to do is we are going to put this piece about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, like so. Now this came off the printable sheet that I included. So what we are going to do is, and I've put this card around the wrong way, so we'll quickly take that off before that tape sets. Let's do that. So I want sort of the scratching on the bottom, the top, and the right hand side, because I'm going to slant that ticket, which I've really inked really well. But don't stick the ticket down yet, or if you do stick it down, just take a bit of the tape off either side on the left hand side so that it's loose like this. Because now this is the Hessian, so with my Hessian I cut roughly about 3/4 of an inch strip off before. There we go. For the video I chose the one with the backing. That's Murphy's Law. So anyway, I've got a piece here that's big enough now to cut. Now, remember when we were kids and we used to do fraying? I don't know whether you did when you were a kid, but in arts and craft, they always taught us how to fray cottons and all of those sort of things. So just take a couple of the strands out like that to get a nice piece. And I took quite a bit out to make it quite, once again, gungy. We'll take another one out. Now what I did to make it really uneven, you can actually pull strands out. So just go through and pull a few strands out to get a rougher, not an even texture, like so. And then I'll probably pull one out of the top. Just like, here we go, there we go. And that will give you a similar piece. And in actual fact, I like the piece I just did. Okay. Now I'm going to slip that underneath. So bring our card down enough. So you can still see all your edges. Pop your Hessian in like that. Okay, once you're happy with that, you can actually glue your Hessian in or tape it, however you like to do it. I'm going to tape mine in. I'll see whether you're better off gluing or taping. Okay, and we're just going to pop that in. So used to putting things straight, I automatically go to try and do that. So now you can take those extra bits of tape that you've left on the back and tape the whole lot down. Now this top piece is from this sheet here. I've just taken the corner one because I wanted a bit of the green. So I'm going to tape that down. I'm also going to tape the back bit because I don't want to cut it off, because you can actually see when it's cut off. So I'm just going to take that tape off so it doesn't stick to anything it's not supposed to. And take both pieces of the tape off. And I want it just sort of like a tab over the top, like that. See, and by folding it over, you just get, it does look like a tab, not a cut off piece of paper. Now I've got from the cut apart the sheet of digital that I've got, and I'm going to glue this one and what I class these little things as are like called, I call them snippets, because they are little numbers and all sorts of things that you can use. Now I have cut one of what they used to call the old primitive love hearts, because the shape was quite good with that. Now I've got a bit of my gauze, and I've sort of pulled it all apart. Now I want that gauze to just sit very loosely about there, on there. And I've always found the best way with this gauze is to just put a couple of pieces of tape down in the area where you want it to stick, because if you do it with glue, it gets too sticky. And then sort of just mash it into place. The rougher you are, the better it looks. So now I've put foam tape onto my heart. And I'm very undecided whether, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to cut that piece of extra hessian I used. And no, I don't like the look. Still very undecided about that. I might try a squarer piece. See whether that... No, I don't like it. So we're not going to do that. Now, what I wanted is just up here to put one of those little circles. So I'm going to get that 1 millimeter foam. Put 2 to make about And then I've got some of my little snippets. Okay, I'm just going to take this heart off for a moment. Now with this, I really am sort of just playing around with things at the moment, because normally what I do is I do all of my making and then I put my cards together. Now I think with this heart I am going to get my pencil, pen, anything like that. I'm going to do a little bit of shaping. Okay, we get rid of that foam that I cut before. We're just going to cut a thin 1/4 inch strip of that 1 centimetre foam and pop that right down in the middle of the heart and just shape the bottom like that, so it's at a point. Then what I'm going to do is curl the edges just up slightly, and now I'm going to put my heart on. So what I need now is a little bit of glue. Just down the side of that heart. I'll pop that on. So that way, the heart is just slightly concave. So as you can see from here, there's a little space in that heart. And it will give a bit of depth to the card. So now we need our little snippets. And I also think it might look rather nice if we just put some of these black little dots on. You can either use Nouveau drops or anything like that. I just think with this heart, it needs something just at the top. So I'm going to put 2 of these little black like that. See, that just finishes it off. So there we have, after much crafting, our first of our little small 3x4 cards. Okay, this is card number 5C, and this one came from this sheet here, whereas I just cut down at 6 inches, but I wanted this tiny bit here, so I've cut just next where the home is, where the heart is. Then I cut my 3x4 from there. My next piece I actually got from one of the frames, which I've just got here to show you, which is this frame here. So I've just cut a 3x4 and then I trimmed that up to 2.5 by 3.5. Then I cut a small piece of the card and I gunged it at 2 inches by 3 inches. Now the green card is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So you end up by having layers like this with those sizes. Now I haven't inked this card at all, so we can immediately put down our olive green card in the center of that base card. Now, once again with this one, I have done an indent on the top right hand and the bottom left hand. I've really inked it, and then I've rolled the corner like we have done before. And this card then can go on the center of the base card with the roll at the top. Go. Now this card will just fit, if you have a look, inside there, but we are going to twist this card like that. And then I've got a little tag. Now this little tag came from the sheet here, so I cut that whole tag out and fussy cut all the edges and tied a little bow at the top with my twine. Now to do this little circle inlet, what I did there, I have got a inch punch and a 7/8, and just to show you, I put the small one first, and I've just cut a half circle with a 7 1/8. Make sure that you keep that small piece. Then take your inch punch and just you can actually see the little moon that we've got there. So you're just taking a slither off that circle. So that's all you're taking off, like that. So then you've got your cut, the circle, and the circle. Take that one out and you end up with the shape that is cut. Now I have also cut a little tiny heart with one of my small heart punches in the green and just edged it. Now if you haven't got these circles, just draw up some circles onto there and cut them with your scissors, same as your heart. Just draw yourself a little heart and fussy cut your heart out if you don't have punches to do that. So then I have edged around the edges, and this card now is going to be stuck onto this card in the middle. So we're going to tape our tape off. Center that. Then stick a little circle on. So you'll end up with that look. Now we need to get our twine, and I've got this really nice, start again. Okay, so one, two, and come into the back. Now how you tie this is we'll cut that off and loop one of those ends underneath. So then you'll have this. So then just tie it into a knot. And snip it off. So now you've got two strings. Now you need to cross them over so that the cross is just where your circle is. So take those up like that. Now what we are going to do is put our little heart over that spot. Now to do that, I think we need some glue. To make sure that we have a glue contact. And the glues seem to be the bane of my life today. Okay, so once that's done, you can now take the tape off the back of that. We're going to slant that across. And I think to finish this off, I think we will find our card with some of the sayings on and choose yourself a nice sentiment. And I think Life is Beautiful actually is a really quite nice one. So I'm just going to snip that off. Okay. I'm going to cut these words out very close. And cut them into 3 words. Life is beautiful. And then I'm going to just, once again, because we've grunged everything, we will There we go. And then we will just pop them onto the tag. Very fiddly. And then I also think, to finish this off, I think these are slightly too large to do that, and I think it would be nice to have them. So I'm going to have a look and see if I have got some black micro beads. Which I do. I've got the little tiny titty ones. If you haven't, and you've got some Nouveau drops, you could use your Nouveau drops, or if you wanted to, you could just use a black pen, or not use them at all. And it's perfectly up to you. So there we have, and I might just push that bead, little one, up a little bit further. Card 5C complete. And it is on the slant as I have asked myself to do. So here's our little photo mats for card 5B, 5D, 10D and 10B, and they are just the 3x4 plain cutouts that you can put your photograph in. So these are really easy ones. Okay, on to our last two cards. Now, the reason why I've got the two cards together is cards 7 and 9 is because I need them to run together, and you'll understand once they're all put together what I've done. So card number 7, I have got my 6x4 mat. I have got my 5 3/4 by 3 3 3/4, and I have done the edges and rolled the two bottom corners. So this can actually go down onto our card centered. Now I've cut a piece of card running downwards, roughly just under 5.5 by 2 inches, and torn the bottom corner off, which is on the left hand side. Now that is going to go down onto my card. Now I've got my 3x4 photo mat, and then I cut a green card which is 3 1/4 by 2 1/4, and my photo mat is going to go onto that centered. And then this is going to go towards the top, up the top there. Now, as you can see, that needs to have some foam tape. And I haven't cut these cards very straight. Okay, we'll straighten that up a little bit. Right, so I've put my foam tape down, and that's going towards the top. And I'm just going to move that slightly across. That's better. Right, there we go. And that stops that card from warping and bending your photograph once it's in your album. Okay, now once we've done that, we've just got the ephemera to pop on there. So now we will go down to our card number 9. Now I have cut my 5 3/4 by, finally found the papers. So here's your number 9. It was the one with the window, and I've just taken that off, and I've done a 6 by 4 and trimmed it to 5 3/4. And here is the other one, number 7, and I've done exactly the same, 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. And this will give you these sheets here. Now I have ripped up the top to introduce that green and distressed tops and left and right hand side. So now we just need to tape this one down. Now I was undecided whether to roll the corners with this one, so I might, just in case, just gunge those bottom corners up, just in case I decide to. Okay, so the rip goes on the right hand side at the top, like so. Now this is where you'll actually see why I have done what I have done. Now this needs to come down just below the tear in the middle. Then at the top I got one of the borders. You've cut the square there, so it's just here, number 9. And then Make It Happen came from this sheet here. You've used this one in number 1. This is it here, Make It Happen. So there is where these two have come from. Now I've raised, what I did is the Make It Happen, I cut it out and then I've stuck it to that plain frame. And the reason being is I wanted a longer frame than what that Make It was happen. It was a bit too short and I wanted it longer. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to center that above my photo mat, and as you will see, that sort of continues on from the other one, so it looks like it's supposed to be there. That's why I've moved this down. Now down at the bottom You know that these have all come from my cut aparts. I've also got 2 bows. I have got the little clock. Now the little clock has come from here at the top, because the clock that I printed up was just wrong. It just didn't look right. So I wanted this new clock. So what we have to do now, I've got my gauze, my little bit, clock, and a couple of the smaller tags. Now, you need to pop your gauze down. I sort of don't want that all spread out, so I'm going to sort of fold it on to each other, because I want the clock to sort of go just over that join of this. So how this is going to work, I'm going to do my tag, the clock, tag poking up, and then the circle like that. Now I want my hessian I think I might cut that slightly smaller and just fray some of those out so it's a little square. Just work out where I'm going to place that. That's correct. Okay, so our hessian, I need that popped onto my piece. Okay. Now this I might stretch out a bit more. Rip it off. You can move it. It's just one of those nice things that you can just mush around and play with. Probably the more you mush it, the better it looks. Okay, we're going to just pop that onto like that. Now we need now to just add a little bit of glue and build our piece, making that our 12 o'clock is at the top. Popping our tag just underneath, so it's sort of popping out. And then I've got a little number that came off. I cut the numbers off of the bottom of this tag, so I've actually used one of those little numbers up there. Now I'm going to lift that up and I'm going to put a tiny bit of foam tape along there. Just to give that some lift. So that is card number 7 complete. So now our next bit is down the bottom. I've got a tiny bit of hessian. Pop that down the bottom, just like that. Now we're going to build our tags up, but I don't want them attached to the photograph because they're going over. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this one just slightly off center to build our strip of ephemera. So I'm just going to throw these together. And there we have our ephemera there. So once you're happy with where it is, you might need a little bit of foam tape on your tags. And of course I've stuck my tape too far up, so I'm just going to cover that up. Okay. So I'm just going to pop that down. 3, 2, 3 goes on. And I'm going to pop my little tag in behind. Now I've got my little bows to pop on both of these, and I did have the bow there somewhere. This is about the third one I've lost today, so I will quickly make yet another one. So we just quickly tie a little twine bow. I'll attach that. Now it's a bit hairy, so I'm going to cut some of those off. Whoop. Just hold that down and let that set. So we can still get our photograph underneath with no problems. Might just go in here and just pick out now this little one. I think we'll just put one there. There we go. So there's our two cards, and as you can see, so here we go on card number 8. Now this one, this piece of card here, I'm going to make that into a small frame like that. Now what I did to do that is I cut the number 8 and then I just snipped it down the side here, approximately here. And then I've just slided it in. So what we're going to do with that is we'll take that piece of tape off and just pop that to make that frame. Just like that. And that gives you your nice frame. I've done 2 pieces of green card, which I've put some of the gauze on there because I'm going to do some ripping. I have done a piece of card going sideways so that I've got it going upwards and sideways. This one was roughly 3.5 by 2. All the rest is just cutouts, and I'll show you the pages where I got these cutouts from. A couple of pieces of gauze, a couple of small hearts, and some of the cutouts. These 2 were from the cutout sheet and some gauze. Now I have cut from this, I'll show you on this sheet just here, this Never Stop Dreaming, and I've actually just snipped the actual wording out of that. And the other pieces, this piece here has come from this sheet here. It's that one there. And Believe in Yourself came from the spare sheet that you had left over from your previous layout, the one down the bottom here, the one with all the different tags that you've got. So that's where everything is located. So now we're going to put this card together. Now this sheet came from, that's the one that I haven't shown you, is this sheet here. You've already used this one here, it's this one here, and you're going to trim that to 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I've done the brown where I want to do my tearing, so I'm just doing a tear at the top and a tear at the bottom. So I'm going to get my pokey tool and give it a good old I want this one to be quite open. And then I'm going to stick this in like that. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape to hold that into place at the bottom. And then just pop a little bit of glue either side to make sure that it stays put. So while that is sticking, I'm going to do the tear down the bottom as well. So once again, we'll get the pokey tool and give it a good old twist. So you've got 2 really nice tears. Once again, put glue either side, bit of tape down the bottom. And stick that under So there we have our card ready to go on. I just need to rough some of the edges up, just so it matches up. So we'll give it a bit of a grunge. Okay, happy with that. So now we'll construct that card, take our tabs off. Okay, the whole thing gets put in the center. And that's your base card. Now, this piece here, I want to slant that above my tear, up the top. So just make sure that you've got your placement right. So we're going to take that off so it's 1/4 inch above the tear. And I've torn some of the edges off of this. And pop that down. Now, because this is going to rock, we are going to grab ourselves I think we might have to use the double-sided tape, otherwise it's not going to. Okay, let's see whether that rocks now. Okay. Oh, and okay, make sure when you're doing this one that you put the double-sided tape where the leaves are. Because I want that edge down the bottom. That's right. So the tape goes where the leaves are, because the leaves are up the top. So that now has stopped rocking and should sit quite nicely. And I need to put my tape down the bottom and not at the top. So your tape goes down the bottom with that tape. Now our lovely bit of gauze, we're just going to stick that in the bottom here somewhere. We'll just stick that on. Now I also wanted a tiny bit of this to go. So what I'm going to do there to get that to attach where I want it, I'm going to put double-sided tape on underneath and actually on top, which is a bit difficult, I know, but and then okay, here we go. So stick some tape onto that, and as you can see, my tape has decided to stick itself down. So I'll redo the tape on there. Okay. So I'm just popping and moving things around until I'm happy with them. Okay. Now I have decided I don't like that Hessian there because of what I'm going to do in a minute. I have made the decision to carry that theme on that we did before. We are going to wrap it round twice. And then tie. Again, like you did that time before. And this makes it that you have a follow through from page to page. We snip those off. So then you've got your 2 strings. Now, cross them over. Okay, once you've done that, we'll get the word so roll that up slightly so it's further up the card. As you can see, you're actually seeing how I do a lot of my design work this time, because I normally have this all complete. And then we have the word. So I think we'll raise that up. Pop that on there. Then I think we'll put this on some tape as well. This is why I like this 1mm tape, because you don't get too much height with it. Now we're going to pop that there. We are going to get our string and make another little bow. Make it fairly small so it's roughly the same as the little bow that's on there. There we are, I've pretty well copied that. and stick that on like that. Now we are ready to pop our hessian on the bottom. So I'm just going to put so we now have that ready to put into place. And just slant that one slightly down. So we're going to stick that into place. I'm going to put a fair amount of tape on this one because it's got to stick on that corrugated cardboard. So just pop that underneath and slant it slightly, stick it down, then stick that one down. And I've just dropped my heart on the floor. Okay. Then I think we'll put the heart there, and the other heart we'll just pop there. So what I'm going to do now, this one, I'm going to pop some glue on there. It's too hard not to do it with glue. Put my heart, and I'm going to stick my other heart over the top. And maybe get a little bit of mounting tape. Might actually pay. So once you're happy with how things are generally looking, we can tape our tape off of our mat. And as you can see, I actually have put this mounting tape on the wrong end. So this is why I normally have all of my designing done, so that I can just virtually put everything into its place. Okay, now we need to just pop that underneath our little and get that into place. That's better, otherwise it would be rocking everywhere. So there we have card number 8 done and finished. And if you've got these rolling up on you, just pop a bit of glue just to keep them nicely in position. I'll hold those down for a few seconds. And there we have an eye candy card for the right hand side. Now this is card 10A, and it's to match on the other side this card here. So to do that, because this one runs the opposite way, I've made sure my wood grain runs the correct way, and I've edged the edges. I have done 2 of the love hearts for my template, and as you can see, this one is about 1/8 of an inch. So what I did, I drew it round and then just cut it a little bit smaller, and then this one is just a little bit smaller again. So I did my template and then just quickly drew a love heart, which I've sort of done a slightly different shape to the other one. Now both of these came off of this sheet here. You can actually see my drawing of my outline, and then I've just cut it out. So I've used both of those tickets there to get that. This one here came from your previous sheet that you've cut before. Then I cut some green that was just slightly bigger than my piece I've cut. Now for ephemera, I have got from the sheet some little ticket pieces here. I had some leftover Hessian little bits left over, which I'm going to use, and I cut my little green love heart. So to construct this, we've got our base card here. Now the green card here is going to go at the bottom of this. So we just need to put our tape. I'm sorry I haven't done this before, because it does speed up the process. Now, as you know, if you're watching my video for the first time, I don't use a lot of tape because these do go into pockets. And I always use the Express It tape, because I find don't use cheap tape, or you will go in and your tape would have undone. This lasts forever, and once within 24 hours it actually sets like concrete, so you won't get your paper off. Now this particular one here, because we are going to put some Hessian underneath, if you did that you'd get a bump. So what we're going to do is just get some of the old cardstock that you had, and we are going to tape that down just to give a little bit of lift so it sits straight on our card. So we're just going to pop this, any old bit of do, just underneath, so that when it sits and you glue your Hessian, it will sit nice and flat, because it gives you room to work underneath. So this is going to be a bit difficult, but I do prefer tape with Hessian to glue, because all your glue comes through. It's going to be a bit difficult to get that right. There we go. Just pop that on so that you can just tuck your Hessian on like that. Okay, so now we can put this piece on now. Now, once again, I have roughed the edges on this. So I've done it a little bit on the bottom, and to do the bottom ones, what I did there, I just gently rubbed it backwards and forwards, and you get that nice little rough edge down the bottom without it cutting right in like this one. So we'll pop that onto our base card. Now don't worry that I've done what I normally wouldn't do, and I've got my print running sideways, because it will be virtually covered and you won't see that. So our next little job is we have a nice little tag here, which is going to go flat just in that top corner. So we'll tape that down. And now we're starting to build our layers. Just pop that on. Now this one came from the sheet, the printout sheet, and I cut the extra numbers off of the side because it just didn't look right. Now I have now got my gauze, so I'm just going to pop a couple of pieces of tape down to attach my gauze. Let's make that all really nice and spongy. Just stick it down. If you've got bits, you can fold it. You can do everything with this stuff. Okay, so once we've done that, we can actually very quickly layer our layers. Once you're happy with your placement, which I'm fairly happy with that. So once you've done that, you can actually sort of dismantle it to a certain degree and pop your hessian on. Okay, so this one here, I am going to just lay flat. So we are going to just put some tape on that heart. Stick that one down. Now this particular heart here, I wanted to raise up a little. So what I have done, I got my little paintbrush, just rolled those edges up slightly just to get the memory working. Then you can flatten them down. Now this centerpiece, just roll it over your brush. What happens there is it raises it up so it gets a little bit of 3D. Now to help that stay in place, I have got my little 1mm foam tape just in the center of your love heart, and I've got a bottom piece here I've pre-cut for the point. You don't want to go all the way down to the point. Then I will take that off. Now I will put a little bit of glue up the top and just on that bottom point. and then pop it down and just pop your, that actually needs a bit more, sorry about this, a little bit more help in standing up. So I'm going to put another piece of that little bit of foam tape to make, so that becomes 2 mil. That's perfect. Okay. So, and that just gives you that little bit of a rounded shape and definition. So this little green love heart, I've got a 1 mil tape here. I'm going to cut one of those in half, and that is going to go on my green heart, which I seem to have misplaced. I found my green heart, which happened to be on the floor. So I've just got that little bit of dimensional tape, and I'm going to tuck those bits in so we can't see. That's going to be raised. Now with this, once again, because I've got these little dots, you need to introduce it onto the opposite side. As you can see on this card, we've got the little dots, so I will be following through. Now I've got 2 little bits here, which I'm going to glue on because they're too fiddly to tape. Okay, so we'll pop our ticket underneath. And we've got our number, snippet. I'm just going to tuck in. There we go. So there we have a little card, and I've also decided once again to use some of these dots. So I want the larger one here So there we have card 10A complete. Now we're coming to our small 3x4 card 10C. Now with this one, because I'm starting to get short on all my ephemera and everything else, I've just gone in and really used the stuff that's left over. Now I cut from this sheet here, there's this tiny bit, I think it's here. So I've just cut that out, and that will fit inside the frame. Now the frames come from the leftover, and from memory we have used this frame and this frame, so we've only got these two frames. So I use this one and cut the center out because I'm not allowed to use flowers in this layout. So that is where this frame came from. So they're those pieces. This piece here has come from this leftover sheet. You've used this bit here. It is this piece here that I have used for that. Now I just drew myself a little heart, which is roughly an inch by an inch and a bit, and I cut that out of the leftover paper from here, because you can actually see I've cut all of this, so I've just used that to get my love heart out of. And of course you need to go and find the frame page and just take it as the last frame that we have from there. And that came off of, I've got the sheet here, this sheet here. You can actually see there it is there for 10C. It's where you took your heart and you've also taken the other bits out of. So I've distressed the edges on these two. I've got the circle from the cut, and I've done a tiny bit of hessian and a tiny bit of the gauze. So it's an easy card to put together. So all you need is your green card, which is 2.5 by 3 3/4. Mainly because it was a piece of offcut. You could actually do yours. Oh, I know why I did it. It's so that the frame, so what I did is I just got my card, popped my frame on and cut to give me 1/8 of an inch all the way around my frame. That's why it is that size. So the correct size will be 3 3/4 by 2 1/2. So pop that into the middle of that card, centered as much as you can. You then need to attach your centerpiece onto the frame so that your frame looks like that, because I wanted this as my title page. So now we can lay this one on, and I can see I've forgotten one thing to put on. That doesn't matter, we can deal with that. Okay, now lift the top of this card, and if it's the type of tape I use, which is I'm trying to have a look to see if I've got express tape. There's the label there. You will find for the first couple of hours you can lift it, move it, and then it really sticks, and you won't move it at all. I find it an absolute fabulous tape. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so what we need to do now is we are going to put the tab and attach that down. Now we can put our card, and in actual fact I would like, that's why I distressed it and I've put it round the wrong way. Okay, we'll try that again. There we go. So we can now stick that on quite safely. So there is the base of our 10C card. Now here I slanted that hessian like that, so we just need a little bit of tape on our card. And we're just going to pop our gauze down. there we have the foundation of our card coming. Now, I'm not going to roll this one particularly. I might just shape that down a little bit to get some memory in the paper. But I've put the 1 mil tape there. And I want that heart to just pop on top like that. Now I've got the 1 mil on this, and we're going to just put the circle. So then I've left myself enough to put the heading of my page and the year, which I'll type up once I've got my photographs done. So there we have card 10C complete. And that concludes all of our cards and etc. for this layout. So I will give you a sneak peek of the finished with all my photographs and everything else in there as well. So please don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, because you will then get notifications when I have another new video up. And till next time, keep crafting. Bye. Thanks everyone for watching through to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed making your cards and your layout, and then you're ready to pop your photographs in just like I've done. And don't forget to pop your journaling and etc. in the little file folders behind your photographs in the sleeves, so that people have the story. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, keep crafting. Bye.